I think what we welcomed when the budget itself was announced was the government's target for growth and some of the long-term supply side reforms that they talked about, reforming planning, getting on with some of the big infrastructure projects. I think we thought that was the step in the right direction, but I think we and everyone sort of recognized there were big challenges around how they fund some of the promises they made and that macroeconomic fiscal position, and I think that's where the market has really been focused. And I think we saw some important steps yesterday by the chancellor to provide some reassurance around that.
The upper tax rate cut was worth £2 billion, a drop in the ocean in terms of the state's finances, and yet this was almost like a token concession, if you like, which somehow seemed to calm markets, but it still hasn't really put us back on a medium-term path to managing down the debt that this economy is currently saddled with. Why did the markets react, do you think, positively to such a small fiscal giveback? And how, in your opinion, do we get back to some kind of fiscal rectitude?
Well, I think changing that 45p tax was an important signal. I think it showed that the government was prepared to listen and to make changes in their policy where it wasn't really delivering and putting the economy first, and I think really helping to support low-income households, which we know are really going to be challenged in the cost of living crisis that the UK is facing. But I think, importantly, why the markets, I think, were reassured yesterday is also that the Chancellor spoke about strong institutions. He talked about the independence of the Bank of England. He talked about the independence of the Office for Budget Responsibility. He said he would have an ironclad fiscal position, and he also said that he would bring forward that moment when the Office for Budget Responsibility provided the economic forecast and, importantly, the scorecard, the report card on how well the government's policies will deliver that medium-term fiscal credibility. And so I think that helped to reassure markets, and it was certainly something we've been calling for. So it was really important to see the Chancellor took that step as well yesterday.
How tarnished is the Chancellor and this government in the eyes of the business community that you represent? Is he a credible Chancellor?
I think he is credible, but he has got a lot of work to do. And I think it's important that he has shown that he can listen and he can change tack. You know, they weren't going to get the OBR to report until the end of November. And I think we and many organisations and many people were saying, you need to do that earlier. You need to give confidence. You need to, sense check your policies much sooner than that. So I think he showed that he can listen. But I think what businesses are saying is that macroeconomic certainty is the bedrock of any plan for growth. So we've got to have strong institutions. We've got to keep inflation in check, and you've got to have measures that really help to deliver the growth over the long term, but don't end up in a tug of war with the Bank of England on inflation, and they've got to be credible.